All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Oregairu,
Season 2, Episode 7. We had a wonderful episode last week where we got introduced to some new characters, some new conflicts, and they were a bit complicated, these conflicts, but as a whole, I think they will be very helpful and progress the narrative of this story that we find ourselves in rather nicely. One character in particular was my personal favorite. I found him rather entertaining, rather funny, just a little bit quirky. You know, as far as shticks go, I felt like it was very conducive to an entertaining environment within this.
Preach it! Preach it!
Man, last episode.
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, last episode
wonderful.
giving us a nice kind of segue into things with regards to the student council, like, you know, president kind of situation that we've got ourselves in here. But actually interacting with the other school.
Indeed.
And giving Hachiman an opportunity to interact with his old crush.
Right.
Who I'm still on the fence about with regards to certain things.
Oh, yeah?
Not just like with regards to her personality and stuff, but potentially what she wants and
it's going
why
to
she's
get
doing a couple of these things here.
even more interesting, because whether she is starting to actually crush on him a little bit now that he's portrayed in this position of, you know, competence, right, and effectiveness, or whether that might end up sending him mixed signals, which could cause all kinds of hurt all over again. Regardless, I love it.
Yeah.
And Iroha's here for this, which I'm also for.
Yeah, it's a lot of time that Hachiman is not spending with the club.
Yep.
It's a lot of not Yui and Yukino time.
And if Yukino had gotten elected, maybe this whole situation would have gone differently, but it would have been probably Yukino in this whole, you know, setting here, right? So maybe that would have been a better option. Who knows? Who knows?
Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
One is the loneliest number
of DMCA is a thing.
And that's why we're stopping right there.
Right there, yep. Guys, this
boy.
episode just set up potentially the rest of the direction of the season.
Yeah.
Because what happened here was Yukino, with her tired, resigned smile and voice, just told Hachiman, this is where I learned something that I was wrong in, that I had gone off course so far that I needed to be like arrested off of that course by almost seeing it play out again in someone else, or in some ways to kind of have that moment where she ended up taking too much of the burden on herself in that other instance before this in season 2. And then Haruno kind of came in and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna utilize Hachiman to save you from this situation here."
Was that season 1 or 2?
Was that season 1?
I think it was the end of season 1. So it was with the festival, but yeah.
Yeah. It was season 1. You're right. But the point is that Hachiman's now in this situation, and he's been given a lot of opportunities to take some outs, but because he'd rather do this himself, because he'd rather keep pushing things to where he ends up kind of being the cool guy that's saving everyone else from their problems and stuff.
Oh boy.
While not asking for help in any of these ways here.
How's that working out for you?
He is now getting told he doesn't need to show up at the Volunteers Club anymore because, you know, obviously you don't want to be there. You don't really need us there. So what's the point of coming, right? You're so busy with all this other stuff. But then when he's interacting with anyone else outside the club, I have loads of free time, you know, with the Hayama.
Right.
Or I have nothing better to do. Wow.
Yep.
God.
Yep. It's something
that hurts.
It's this crazy love-hate relationship that I have with Hachiman because he's such a wonderful main character, right? Like, because all the things that he does, it's like, yes, that's because he's stubborn and people are stubborn and And, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if we just decided to not be bakas, right?
Or just stop play acting up to the people in front of us.
Sure, yeah, whatever.
That's kind of what he does.
Right. Whatever our personal brand of baka is, right? Whether it's the traditional baka or not, right? But the idea that there are problems that we all have in our lives that could be solved quite easily if we just...
open, honest communication.
With open, honest communication with other people, but then also with ourselves, right? If we just decided...
Starts with other people, though.
Well,
okay. Here's the thing.
That can change depending on the circumstances, I would say.
It is easier, I would say, to be open and honest with others than it is to be with yourselves. It is more important, I would say, to be open and honest with yourself.
Okay.
But I would say that most people, when they're in deception, they don't know... all the time that they're in deception.
Right, that's the whole point. It's not actual deception if you don't... Yeah, right.
If you don't know what you don't know,
then
you're not going to help yourself that way. But in the areas where you do know that you don't know something, kind of what Yukino had as a moment here, where she's like, I understand kind of what's going on here. It's rough because she's not going to offer to help Hachiman here, in the same way that Hayama's not going to offer to help Iroha because, they're not asking for help.
Nope.
And even if they did ask, just because they asked doesn't mean they'd always say yes.
Well, and right, exactly. And in fact, the track record goes to show that he wouldn't, right? And it's the...
And
be careful what you wish for because you just might get it.
Right.
And, well, what do you know? He's getting it, right? He tried to keep them at arm's length, right? Now they're keeping him at arm's length, you know?
And I like that it was Yukino that started this because Yui has been putting on so much of a, hello, good face for all of this. Because she's kind of into self-deception as well, that this is all okay, that she can just make it work with, the power of positivity and friendship. Doesn't work like that. If people aren't willing to participate actively themselves, you can't will them into doing it.
She's hiding the symptoms right now, basically.
Yeah.
Which means that it's not going to get treated.
Yeah. And thus, she's not really asking for help either.
Right. And the symptoms, like Yukino, for instance, saying, like, don't feel the need to come to the club, right?
Yeah.
That's something that's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
But because Yukino is also stubborn, right? She's was going to brute force her way through everything. And I love that, like, Yui, for instance, mentioned Yukino as the old Yukino, right? Because, she's basically a different person now, right? She's changed.
Well, I mean, everyone's changed, right?
Yeah, everyone's changed, but the idea that it's enough to warrant a distinction, right? And that, what previously might have worked, what previously might have been enough to get by, right? Not anymore.
Yeah,
not anymore.
And one of the things that's kind of crazy about this, and I think this is what they're kind of moving things towards, and I would love to see if the show kind of does it in a parallel but different end point, basically, is that Yukino eventually realized how similar her and Hachiman were.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't like what Hachiman's doing a lot of the time. Oh, shit, that's me. Oh.
Maybe that's motivation then for me to change.
Motivation for me to change. One of the
Looking
things,
in a mirror.
Exactly. One of the things that is really fascinating when you're growing up and you're kind of, I don't know, not finding yourself, but you're more ironing out who you are. It's the idea that you're kind of a rough-hewn statue where you're not smooth on the edges and stuff. So you still have a lot of opportunity to change before you get kind of locked in as much as you do when you're an adult
it's the little things with the big effect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Figuring out what shape you want it to be before sanding things down. Yeah.
Exactly. So Yukino saw a lot of her rough edges basically bounce against Hachiman's rough edges, and it created a little bit of spark, a little bit of tension, I think. And I think Hachiman was like, hell yeah, this is great. I love it. Well, the thing is that she kind of, I think, sanded off a little bit over the course of that, especially because of Yui's third-party kind of influence in that kind of trifecta. Whereas Hachiman, I think, just kind of changed only in like certain areas.
Yeah.
Like he became a lot more agreeable with people in general
yes,
because
that is
he
true.
then realized, oh, I kind of can have friends.
But when push comes to shove, it's something where, like, there's self-deception, right, where you don't know it. And if self-deception was all that it was, that would actually in some ways be easier to deal with, because then you show that the self-deception is there and then problem solved.
I mean, it still requires work on the person.
Yeah.
Awareness, again, he would just upgrade from going, he doesn't know what he doesn't know, to I know what I don't know.
No, right. But that's what I'm saying, is that the situation he's in now is the willful ignorance. You know, it's the looking away. Is it
willful entirely, though?
Yeah, I think so. It's based on a lot of strong emotional foundations from his past and everything, and pain and things like that. Old habits die hard.
Okay.
But he knows what he's doing, right? And now he's seeing the consequences of all those things that he consciously did, right?
I gotcha.
And some of them, you know, maybe were a bit simpler or more innocuous, like, oh, that's right, if she had been student council president, then we could have just moved the club in there. Oh, that's a solution I didn't think of.
Yeah.
As opposed to, no, I'm going to continue to do this alone. I'm going to continue to not ask for help. I'm going to, you know, oh yeah, I don't have anything better to do, right? I've got tons of free time. Oh, yeah. I'm going to bring something up while in the club room. But no, I'm going to make it just be a thing of,
okay,
I won't be able to come here very often.
Gotcha. I was getting the vibe that he had started becoming a bit too mechanical.
Oh,
and
okay.
thus not a lot of what he was saying was just not true.
Gotcha.
It's the idea of someone who is too much into people pleasing to the point where he ends up just flat out lying right in front of them, getting caught in his own lies, and then just kind of moves along with it like it's nothing.
Okay.
So it's a lot of, in my opinion, I would say not willful ignorance. It's the idea that he is not necessarily aware enough to see how damaging those bits of ignorance are.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he doesn't fully grasp the consequences of everything, and that's why the conversation with Yukino at the end is so important.
Right.
Because now it's starting to reveal itself.
Yeah, but it was getting revealed throughout the entire episode, at least to us as the audience. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the other characters who he kind of interacted with and would just flat out say contradictory things with regards to himself. Meaning that, like, he is then, if it's willful ignorance, he is consciously deceiving them for some kind of, like, reason there. And I don't see him as being the person that cares enough to try and, like, do kind of the, oh, I'm managing all these fires to kind of keep all of them, you know,
no, yeah, the
ignorant
willful
of the fact that I need help and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
willful ignorance I wasn't meaning at all with regards to other people. It's that he knows what he's doing, right? He knows that this is something that he shouldn't be doing. The self-deception is broken because, and that's you know, it's the whole thing of I'm not thick-headed, I'm thin-headed, right? And yet because of that, even knowing what he's doing, he's going to continue to do it because that's the pattern he's set up for himself.
Okay, like what would be an example of that in this episode that really kind of hones in on that? Because I need a little bit of help with that. Then.
In the conversation with Sai, when Sai's like, hey, you know, if you want help, right? And he's like...
Oh, yeah, we get a little bit of internal thoughts with regards to his bit in there.
Even with the whole thing of Sai talking about how it seemed cool, right? Like him just doing it all on his own. And he's taken aback by this, right? Because he's like, I mean, yes, this is something that I am consciously doing, of making the decision to do it all by myself. You think that's cool? Well, hold on. No, it's not cool.
Right. And this was the part that I thought was rather interesting here. He kind of needlessly contradicted Sai here by saying, like, I think that's really cool. And he's like, no, that's not true. I whine and moan and even bitch about people. And then Sai says, maybe so, which kind of gives me the, yeah, whatever you say, dude. But when was the last time we actually heard him, like, Hachiman whine, bitch, or complain or moan about anyone?
Yeah, it's not often.
Like,
and if it is, it's usually
it's
just part of
recently.
His general banter, you know.
But it's not even. Like, a lot of the things that he's doing seem to be for the purpose of, like, helping people. Like, in this episode, he never complained about anyone. Even the guy who was literally causing all the problems at the meeting and stuff, he just went to him directly and was like, we need to get this done. We need to get this done. And he wasn't making any headway. So then he eventually just gives up and is like, fine. Just please keep this in mind.
Even in the situation with Iroha where she's late and he's like he's frank about it. He's like, no, forget waiting. I went out and looked for you. Right.
Right.
And then doesn't really ask her about it. They continue on that long shot of them crossing the street.
And then he eventually takes the bags.
And it wasn't just that he took the bags. It's that he was leaning over, like, give me the bags.
Like, please.
Like
persistently.
Like getting into her space of, like, come on, give me the bags. She didn't give him the bags to him immediately. It took a while.
It took a very long while.
It took quite a while, but eventually she did.
Yeah, and I think what this is an example of where Hachiman is not willing to ask for help. So he's almost demanding that other people make him useful by being like, hey, let me help you.
Yeah.
And they're like, I didn't ask you.
Well, right. It's a very hypocritical thing to do, right? Because, and, you know, again, what Hiratsuka said at the end of season 1, if you don't let people help you, then when you want to help them, they might not let you, right? And in this situation, it was a bunch of times where he was demanding that they let him help them, and yet he wouldn't let other people help him.
Right.
Repeatedly.
Oh boy. I love the progression of this as it snowballed from a lot of things that you could go back and trace the cause and effect relationship from the confession and a couple little things before that from season 1 that led to this eventually happening. And God, Hachiman, this is important that this happens, because I feel like people who are ignorant about their patterns that are self-destructive need to hit a rock bottom at some point in order to change in a dramatic way.
Right. There's a reason that the saying goes, the night is darkest just before the dawn. It's not just because of the poetry of it.
Right.
It's because since a lot of our, we are our own worst enemy. Our worst, debacles and situations and things like that are of our own making. And as such, yes, of course, of course, the solution is in the last place, or, the thing you're looking for is in the last place you find it, because after that you stop looking, right? It's Hachiman is just like drilling down into this hole of his, this pit, right? And eventually, he's going to hit bedrock, and he won't be able to go any further. And then he's going to be like, well, shit, this is the only way that I actually made it so that I didn't have to deal with all those
toss me up a ladder.
Yeah, all those fears and insecurities that are chasing him, right? And then, someone give me a ladder?
Now he's going to have to wander around in the dark to try and find ladders at the bottom of the world.
Right. We had ladders. We offered them to you, and you kept saying no and digging deeper. These ladders don't reach anymore. Not even close.
That's a really good analogy now that I think about it. Like the idea that he's digging, and he sees the effort. Like, this is the part where I really empathize with him, is that he sees the effort and the struggle that he's putting through here, and he's probably got the idea in his head that if I struggle and put a lot of effort into this is showing that I've grown, because before I was much more lazy. I didn't fight for these people because I didn't care about them.
Yeah.
Now, because I care about them, I'm putting all this effort into them there. Except he admits to himself in the episode that he's clinging too much to this idealized version of himself that's kind of a lie. It doesn't actually lead to anything good. That's the part where I'm with you in that I think he's very self-aware with that. I think when you get into the mechanics of the details of it, he doesn't know all the time when he screwed up.
Right, because and that's why the old habits die hard, is because you have to work really hard to get out of that rut, because you built the rut so that you could keep doing what you're doing easily,
too much
right?
Muscle memory.
There's so much
decision.
Right,
yeah.
and right, exactly. And oftentimes this episode, I think, is an example of that. He does something that he realizes, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
In the moment.
But the thing is that he's already done it, and then he's too stubborn, too proud to actually
say, whoops, hold on.
My bad.
Right. Yeah.
And that's been a pattern. And the problem is that if that is a pattern for a long period of time, well, that just goes to show that when it comes right down to it, you don't care about it enough in order to change it.
And that's scary, because one of the things that I dealt with growing up was there was a time when I shifted really hard into people-pleasing mode because when we moved, I had no friends, and I didn't have experience really beyond making, like, 1 or 2 new friends. I had tons of friends of convenience, basically.
Gotcha.
And then when you move, you have to, like, learn the skill of actively making, new friends and stuff. And one of the things that I would do is I would shift my mood based around who I was with to try and make them be more interested in spending time with me. It wasn't until I met someone that actively really didn't kind of change themselves in any way, and I ended up really becoming friends with them, even though like we were completely different and had very little in common. That element kind of gave me a picture of, oh, you don't have to look like them, you don't have to act like them, you don't need to conform to them in order to be friends. So Hachiman here, having his side of him that really was quite similar to Yukino, he's like, oh, look, this conveniently placed, wonderful, not nice girl here that I can just be friends with.
Banter and do our sword play and all that stuff.
And it'll just stay the same way forever, and I don't have to change anything about myself. Oh, wait. But I am changing, but also I think she's changing. Should I like try and commute? No, I think we got something good. We might be able to work this out without
Let's
any kind of
stay in
stuff
season
there.
1 forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had characters like Hayama come in and drop kind of harsh truth bombs on him, where it's like, hey, are you?
Why do you have to do things that way?
Yeah, why do you always have to do things this way?
Yep.
Yeah. And now he's here realizing, wait. It might be too late. It might be too late. And it's never too late, buddy. It's never too late.
That's the problem. But
the response needs to be more and more dramatic the longer you wait.
Yeah.
So now it's a situation where really, in a weird way, he could reboot and start getting honest with the people who are more new friend potentials with him, like literally Kaori or Iroha, and be like, hey, I'm screwing up things with the club. Like that'd be a lot. But like he could at the very least start practicing with them, so it's not a immediate leap, into the far like reaches where he could collapse into the abyss and hit all kinds of depression and stuff like that.
And the inverse of that is why I loved the conversation with Kamachi so much in the earlier episode, because that's something where here's a person where he's actually comfortable doing that.
Yeah, right? It's a relationship of convenience.
Well, because they're family, right? So it's we're kind of stuck with each other, so might as well make the most of it, right?
Exactly.
The problem is, Hachiman, is that you're assuming you're stuck with Yukino and Yui, right?
Yeah.
You assume that this situation is one that you're stuck in, and you're not.
Nope.
You're not. Even though, even if it did go all the way to the end of high school or whatever, right? You're still not actually stuck in it. And as was displayed this episode, nope. Not even stuck in the volunteer club or the service club or whatever. That might be kind of over now.
Yeah, and to bring a bunch of the little conversations into bear here, the part where we had Kaori kind of have a little moment of like, actually,
what was it? What was it exactly she said? Because it was very different than how she talked about it the first time they re-met.
Yeah, so she says, I don't know if you'd call it that, but yeah, basically saying that they were friends, and she's like, oh, you make it sound like there's more to it. And she's like, ha, and she just kind of did the ha, whereas it's kind of a thing where, to me personally, I think I've had an experience kind of like this. It's where she's kind of like, come on, Hachiman, tell her, tell her.
Tell her what it actually was?
Right. Because based on how he responds, she'll then conform to that. But because it's being put under pressure for her, and she has to do it independently.
She just wants to say, preach it.
She does. But the thing is that she's been seeing him be cool. So she might actually end up, if he says, oh, yeah, she had a crush on me, or give her any kind of a hint that he was maybe still interested in her, then I think she would maybe change a little bit to match it.
That the bridge isn't completely burned. Because when I can't remember exactly what she said when they first were ran into each other again, but I believe it was I can't remember if it was either that she was like, oh yeah, we hardly knew each other, or or
with Haruno.
Yeah. Or if it was something where it was, oh yeah, we were friends, you know, like made it like either made it too positive or just pretended that literally nothing happened.
What I think, if I remember correctly, what I think it was that she played it off in a joking way.
Right.
She wasn't taking it seriously, which of course
Which she definitely is here.
She is taking it more seriously. But I think what this is here is that poor Hachiman looks at this and goes, wait, don't do this to me. Like,
yeah.
I was very much like crushing on you.
I was devastated by what you did.
Yeah, exactly. So now if you're doing this like, ha, you know, that to Hachiman, as at the very least confusing or shocking, because it's, wait.
His thin-headed self is going to weigh those words for a long time.
Right, exactly. But what I think this works in with the theme of the episode, it is a person who is adjusting things based on the company that they're in a little bit.
Almost asking for help.
And Hachiman's just kind of shook about the fact that, wait, this is different.
Yeah.
This is confusing. Wait. Are you saying that there's a...
Right.
I don't think he's like in full, like, so you're saying there's a chance mode.
Yeah,
I think it's where he's like... Because look at his face there. Like, he's
shook
shocked.
it. Yeah. Like, because what I can imagine that it would be in this situation is that it's that hurt what happened all that time ago. I've dealt with it as best I can, but it's still something where it's dealing.
Sore.
It's sore. It's dealing with it, right?
Yep. Sure.
It's sensitive.
Yeah.
So that's for positive and negative, and he's kind of. Or maybe not positive and negative.
It's just that he's reacting strongly because it's such a sensitive spot.
Right. Yeah. He's built up the defenses of just like, all right, that was one of the big things that made him such a jaded person in the way he is now. Yeah. Right. So then
that fueled his defenses.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the expecting attacks and onslaughts and all that stuff and more pain. And then all of a sudden you get the feeling that there's like potentially like an olive branch being extended. And you're like, no, hold on.
Hey, that thing about an olive branch being extended? Do you think that there's a possibility that he's maybe a little bit surprised by his internal response? Like, it's not that he's necessarily shocked as much about what she's saying. That's part of it. But it's also a thing of like, whoa, self.
I think so.
Why are your defenses, like, why are you not...
Why is she bypassing them?
Yeah. Why is this working?
Right. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all.
Typical nice girl that he doesn't like usually. But why is he shocked then if she's because slightly different type of nice girl?
Because there's an element in how she's communicating with Iroha that sends the signal that she thinks she might have done something wrong. Right?
Or she's
nervous. She's awkward talking about it because before it was I have no problem talking about it because I didn't do anything wrong. It takes up no mental space for me. Now
she doesn't have her friend here. That was another thing that's different.
Yes, that's true. So no
one to back her up and preach it back to her. You know?
Right, exactly.
She's 2 against 1 here.
Yeah, but then also now she's in the situation where if she's unsure of herself, that means that it's something that she's thought about. Right?
She's definitely thought about it.
No, right, but it's occupied mental space for her.
Like recently.
Yeah, okay. Because that's changed, right? Before she didn't think about it at all. And that's... So then, of course, it's something where it's like, oh my God, so clearly, at the very least, I matter to her in one way or another, right? For better or worse.
Ay.
And that's why I love that she's here in the story, because Hachiman's issues run deep, right? And right now he's starting to get the effects of the symptoms, of like Yukino being like, hey, don't come to the club anymore. But the whole situation of depending on people, that's not even really the real problem. That's how Hachiman deals with the problem, right?
Yeah.
By not letting anybody help him, right? By keeping everyone at arm's distance.
Yeah.
So, whatever happens here with
Yukino?
No, Kaori.
Oh, with Kaori, yeah.
hopefully that will rip the bandage off enough so that Hachiman realizes, oh, this thing is festered. I didn't actually clean this out. And then it can be dealt with. And then maybe, just maybe, he'll have the humility, whatever you want to call it, presence of mind, self-awareness to then address his close friends, well, the friends who could have been close, and say, I messed up.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up the Yukino conversation to
sort of finish everything off.
Finish everything off here, because I feel like there's a couple really disappointing is kind of a way to say it, but it's more of just it's not that I didn't expect something like this to end up blowing up in kind of both their faces, really.
Yeah.
But more so Hachiman's here. But it's the idea of him lying. And I think that this is something that I could be reading too much into this, but the way he kind of gets said, you didn't have to lie about this, when they're like, oh, you were shopping? Yeah, I was shopping. Or you were helping Ishiki, Iroha out? And he's like, yeah, I was, I was. But then she's like, you didn't have to lie about it. Now,
right.
There's a thing here that I feel like Hachiman kind of did the muscle memory, deflect, technicality thing that betrays
110%.
Like, this was the first part where he screwed up in the conversation here, because I feel like the way things were going, it didn't necessarily feel like this was wholly a wrong thing, except for the fact that, well, their body language, she's turning away from him 90 degrees and he's looking at her, showing where each of them kind of are prioritizing things. But by him saying, I wasn't lying, not like I had a choice, I wasn't lying, Komachi's exams really did play a part in it. He's referring to the statement that he made in this episode at the meeting here. This is why I'm not showing up for the club activities as much, because I'm, I've got stuff with Komachi's exams and stuff. And he didn't mention, the stuff with Iroha, even though they know, based on previous stuff, that he has been helping her.
And
meaning the thing that he said before this about how, there's no, issues there. Remember when she, he ended up leaving the club room to go talk to her solo? And lied about, what was going on there and stuff?
Right, it's something where he is keeping them separate from it.
Right.
And it's not even just because of the work for Iroha and, Komachi's exams and things like that. It's because he doesn't really want to be around them right now.
Right. But it just hurts so much in the fact that I think when she was saying you didn't have to lie about it, she's referring to the whole situation. There's a part of her that is not talking about just the immediate interaction that they had today. She's talking about this whole thing. You didn't have to lie about it. There's a lot of things that he's just hiding that she could be referring to by saying, hey, you could have just told us a little bit that you're wanting to do this by yourself, that you don't want our help, and by being not nice about it, you're actually
respecting us.
Yeah, you give us a lot of respect by saying, hey, I understand that you guys care about me enough to worry.
And I care about you enough to do the potentially uncomfortable thing
by saying,
and bringing it out into the open with you.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this all out here and say, hey, I don't need your permission to do this. This is my choice. I'm going to do this. Yeah, you might not like the decision, but I care enough about you guys to communicate this, because if I was to actively say I'm not doing this, literally say, go out of his way almost to lie about it. It's the opposite. It's directly saying, I care about you so little that I feel like I need to lie about this silly thing that we're not going to ask if you need our help, because you don't really do that anyway. So
it's communicating that I don't want you to be a part of this, but I also don't trust you enough to even tell you that I'm going to be doing this.
That's just part where I feel like the whole thing just spiraled out of control from there, because then she kind of does the technically
you didn't
right.
lie. I stand corrected. That defeated, exhausted smile. So poetic way to basically summarize, I think, what you were basically saying here.
Okay. Yeah.
and this is going to go a bit like, tinfoily.
Sure, okay.
Yukino.
Yeah.
Yuki. Snow. This moment was a chance encounter, right? It was potentially a serendipitous encounter.
Yeah.
Right? With Yukino's situation and how she is right now, she is putting absolutely nothing, or not absolutely nothing, the bare minimum into this conversation as far as making it go in a positive direction, because she's done.
Yeah,
right. She's not putting any energy in that will make it go in a negative direction necessarily. But it's the most that she did. The one olive branch, that she extended to him was you didn't have to lie. In this situation, Yukino is being fragile. Now, not entirely fragile because she's distanced herself, right?
So she's not going to feel any pain from this.
Nope.
Yeah.
But this whole moment is fragile, like a snowflake, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Touch it the wrong way, and it completely falls apart, right? Dissolves. There's no trace that it ever existed.
Yeah.
In this situation here, if when she brought up the whole idea of him lying, if he had responded in just any other way, and especially if he had responded in like a humility, like actually trying to establish a connection here, then theoretically, everything that happened afterward in this episode, and also potentially whatever happens in future episodes, could have probably been avoided.
Or just changed.
Right? It would have been different. But because of that, instinct reaction that he didn't like backpedal on, he didn't like correct himself or anything like that,
Yeah. Did you get the vibe that when she kind of followed up with that, it was kind of that detached sarcasm where she's like, I'm going to then tell the truth. But it's those things that are a bit rhetorical statements. It's the kind of things that I don't know if you've ever like encountered anyone like this, but when they kind of say what's the equivalent of like truths in a petty tone, it's not like I can control what you do in your free time.
Right.
That is a sequence of like lines that could be seen as like, well, of course, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
It's the tone, right? But if you listen to her tone, it's it isn't like I can control what you do in your free time.
You know what it makes me think of?
Yeah.
If their interactions regularly are like, two boxers, right, with verbal sparring and all that stuff, and it's great. This is the weak, just sort of fist against chest.
Yeah.
So, why Baka? Why didn't you?
Yeah.
Why are you like this?
And then her question here, or you saying that you needed my permission,
right? Which is great because it's if you think about where it's coming from, it is the most bucket of cold water ever, because she's basically saying, when have you ever cared about my feelings or thoughts? Don't pretend to now.
Yeah.
Are you going to pretend to now?
Yeah.
Is that what this is?
Right.
Like, be honest with yourself about that. I've accepted it. I think you should too.
Yeah.
Because that'll make what comes next a lot easier.
Yeah. And then just the idea of like, I think if anything, she's like, okay, yeah, this is who you are. I got you. I see. Well, you don't need to apologize because you did nothing wrong. And I'm sure Ishiki finds it much easier dealing with you. And I love the way that you can take this line and you can change the emphasis.
Yep.
And suddenly it becomes an entirely different like statement here.
Whether finds it much easier dealing with you than with me versus finds it much easier dealing with you than I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, like
it's just so painful.
And what was the line? Oh yeah, it's not like you need to apologize,
right?
Because that would imply that you're actually trying to preserve this connection,
right? Yeah, you could probably resolve things all by yourself. That's how it's always been. But then he again contradicts and says, I haven't really resolved anything. Also, I only do things alone because I'm alone.
And so, that's like a slap in the face.
That's basically a slap in the face because one, he has resolved things. The reason why I think he's saying this is because he saw something like Surumi Rumi,
sure,
like earlier in the episode, and it kind of reminded him that sometimes his methods work and sometimes they end up kind of not working out eventually. But the idea of him saying, I only do things alone because I am alone.
This is the biggest lie.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa.
You don't get to say that while you're also doing this.
Yeah. Like, this is goddamn, like, Batman stuff. Like, I'm the only one who can protect this city. It feels painful because it's not true. But this is the kind of thing of where I feel like he believes this. This is not the willful deception. This is where I think he's genuinely unaware of how wrong he is when he says that.
Yeah, like,
because he literally just had a conversation with Sai. Sai was just like, hey.
And I'm not sure if it's because he feels like this is how I am and I'm alone as an observational thing, or, and it's probably a mix of both of these, versus because of past experiences, I have determined that I am a loner. I am alone, right? That is who I am. It's part of my identity. That is a constant of the universe that will not change. And that's why he always pushes people away, because there must be something else to it. I don't trust it, etc. Right?
Right.
All to keep himself from needing to, face the music that no, you're actually keeping yourself here, right?
Right, and he's smart enough to realize, like, that there's a lot of things that he does that makes it difficult for these people to call him friend or him to call them friend.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet he still chooses that, right?
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
the I do things alone because I am alone. It's and I love that he uses tautology for it.
Yeah,
right?
it is tautology. Yeah.
Well, or kind actually, of. It's kind of.
I get what you're saying structurally in certain ways.
It's a loop.
It's
right?
a loop.
Yeah. It's not actually saying that the two things are the same, but it's
It's like he's not saying I'm Hachiman because I'm Hachiman. He's saying basically that I would do things differently if my state didn't change, or if my state did change. But the thing that he's
saying nothing, right?
Right, he is saying nothing.
He's saying nothing,
but yeah, the next bit here where he's like, aren't you the same? Now, what I love here is this is his first thing he says in the conversation to try and connect the two of them. After he just disconnected them from each other like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Which is why I think, again, this is not willful ignorance. The mechanics of what he is doing, he is aware of some of them. But with others, he does things like this where he is completely shooting himself in the foot.
Yes.
By saying, like, well, aren't you the same? And then she kind of just kills the whole thing here. I think he kind of shuts down at this point after the conversation because she says, no, we're not the same. Actually, like, we're not. All I ever did was act like I could do anything, like I understood everything. And then he does look, Yukino Shita.
And then she cuts him off again and says, how about taking some time off from the club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're trying to look out for us,
smile,
then you're wasting your time.
And what really cuts deep to me is that when she looks back at him and is like, and she's basically saying, don't come to the club anymore. Mm-hmm. That smile actually doesn't look to me like a weary smile.
No.
That looks
like relief.
That looks like relief.
Yep.
Because it's whatever the last thread of possible connection that there was, that was why I was so exhausted, right? Because I had been worn down to the last thread. That thread finally broke. I don't need to worry about it anymore.
And it's rough because this just shows how much she cared and liked him.
Yep.
And he did also, because this conversation in some ways shows multiple times that he's trying to,
it hurt him. Well, the end result.
Right, the end result definitely hurt him, but there have been a couple points in the show thus far. I'm going to backtrack here. There's a couple points in the show thus far where they end up alone talking together outside of the club room. More so, I would say, than a lot of the other characters. These are very serendipitous encounters, very kind of convenient little accidents.
Makes my Yui shipper heart die inside.
Right. It's kind of the re-emphasis of these characters are going to be kind of the main source of relationship tension and stuff because they're so similar. Yet, over the course of the show, we have watched everyone change, and then a couple characters kind of become revealed as to who they truly are, because a lot of the characters in this show hide who they are rather well.
Yeah.
But in this case here, we have an example of a character that Hachiman hasn't been focusing on, so he hasn't seen a lot of the ways in which she's changed.
Right.
Because he's
been looking away.
Yeah, he's been either looking too much inside or, like you saying, like actively looking away from her. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, buddy, characters have changed. And this was the moment here where he's like, but wait, you're the same. Meaning, not just you're the same as me, but you're the same as you were back then.
Right, there is no old Yukino Shita, right?
It's
just you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that...
Nope, doesn't work. Also,
that hurts.
On the whole topic of the self-deception, thing. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I still think it's self-deception, and again, this is one of the reasons why I love Hachiman so much as a character, and I love the writing of this show.
Willful self-deception, right? Because we both agree that there's self-deception.
Oh, you're right. Willfully remaining in his ways, even though he knows what he's doing, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Is that's what people do. Mm. One of the reasons that this show holds such a special place in my heart is mm-hmm. because a lot of the times with stories, it's very difficult to have characters be truly contradictory.
Oh, right.
Because then, without it feeling chaotic or truly inconsistent, right? Because the inconsistencies of people, that's kind of what make us different than just machines, right?
Right.
Or just, caricatures that are, put into a story for our entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. This is what makes Hachiman really feel like a person to me. Because, yeah, I totally get the idea that he could be both desperately holding on to his old anchor, you know, and mm-hmm. refusing help, but then at the same time wanting to have both, right? Yeah. And then once the negative consequences start to come in, then he's like, well, hold on. And then he reaches out a hand, but it's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, right?
Right.
Yukino, in a lot of ways, is showing that she cares too much, or she what's the word?
Let me translate. See if this comes out mm-hmm. correctly here. Is that she is so frustrated by the amount of investment that she put into this to begin with that she needs to fully remove that investment in order to protect herself.
Right. Exactly. She is taking care of herself.
Right.
And because of that, no, you're not a part of it anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the cold detachment kind of comes up here. I really do wonder if we'll end up getting, hopefully later, because I feel like this is what Kaori will end up being. Mm-hmm. Very potentially good within the story.
The hammer to smash things.
Well, right, but it will be a potentially hard look at a situation in the past where Hachiman will finally hear the other side's look at things.
Okay.
And he'll be like, I was completely wrong. Because what I think could be happening here is that this is a picture of what he has done in some ways in the past, is that he ends up becoming so focused on the idealized version of who he thinks maybe he wants to be, or he thinks other people want him to be. But then he gets stuck in that, not necessarily just in his own identity, but in his perception of how other people are, so that the person that he crushed on was that way. They started changing, but then he remains crushed on the thing that they were before.
Oh, the idea of them, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
what they meant to him as a kid in junior high.
Yeah, and then when they come back to him of like, hey,
gotcha.
I'm actually finding you to be,
worth my time.
Well, not just worth my time, but yeah, they're showing interest.
Yeah.
He's like, but you're not being yourself. You're different now.
Yeah.
And it constantly has him missing ships, so there's no synchronized anything or what have you.
My teen romantic comedy snafu.
Snafu, yeah. I feel like that's something that I think I might be projecting a little bit there with that, but I think
it rhymes with that.
Yeah, it could be something that's more just like you're saying. It rhymes. It's adjacent. It's something close, but it's not really.
Right. Hachiman will have his own particular flavor of it, and Yeah, like usually when the old flame crush whatever shows up in a story, I get annoyed at best and bothered by it at worst, right?
Right.
Because it feels oftentimes like it's melodrama, right?
Oh, sure.
And at the very least a distraction from the interactions that I'm most excited for, right?
Yeah. And there's such a minimalist approach with it in this show that it feels really refreshing.
Well, there's the minimalist approach with it in this show where it's the hammer is not immediately obvious, right? But it's more like introducing the hammer so that then when it's needed, Chekhov's hammer, get it off the hooks on the wall and then use it, right?
Right. That was kind of what she was with when Haruno was there. Like Haruno is more being the hammer of like, I'm gonna use this. This is good.
Yeah. But now it's something where no. The Hachiman has dug himself so deep that the only thing that can probably get him to change, because he's so stubborn, is that old hammer that will hit him in a way that no other hammer would. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I have no idea what that's going to be like. My heart goes out to Hachiman for however that's going to end up falling out. But at the same time, you need this man. So,
yeah. And you're not alone, buddy. Wow. You've got so many people around you.
But you just lost one.
Yeah. But again, this is about the reality of the situation here. He has so many people around him. Like, think about it. Just count.
All kept
no
far away.
Doesn't matter. I literally I literally am going to be like almost an asshole about this. He has so many people around him. This is not talking about magnitude of how close they are. They're close enough that it takes basically just a bit of humility, a bit of arms reaching, a bit of effort, and things are moving along in a better direction. There are so many people also that don't give a flying fuck about his putting them at arm's reach, like Hiratsuka Sensei. Sure. Because she's just like, please, I'm just going to sock you in the gut.
Or Komachi, right? It might make me a little sad, but I understand. Yeah.
Yep. Zaimakuza, another great example of that, where Hachiman has done so little to earn his respect in a lot of ways, except for, they probably shared a pretty wholesome childhood with regards to the stuff that he keeps referring back to.
Chinibyo days, yeah.
Exactly. And then Sai, another person who very, very much cares about Hachiman, despite the fact that, So I fully disagree with the idea that there's so much that he's so strong, that Hachiman is so powerful, that his arms are held so tightly in place that they're going to get pushed away.
So last two things I think I want to say about this episode. One, this whole thing is why the letter from Komachi is so important at the beginning.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
And of course he focuses on the kitchen appliances and things like that. But what about the whole thing of, I want your happiness?
Right.
Second, one of the reasons that I think this is so entertaining, because, I mean, think about it. Like, there are audiences have limits, right? And you can only edge them out so much before they genuinely get frustrated and pissed off, like Yukino, and then leave. The reason why I think this is so damn entertaining, in addition to just the fact that it's very well executed, is because since Hachiman is holding them at arm's length, we know that at any moment, if he finally decides to drop the arms, then that'll be it, right? He'll be group hugged, so to speak, and it'll be wonderful, right? And then that's why this is painful, because Yukino is now moving away on her own, right?
Right. But he would have to run after her now.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Again, why she's probably the canon end girl. But I was just thinking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a great point, because I could see myself otherwise getting very frustrated with this of like, there's never going to be a payoff, damn it, like
I mean, it doesn't have to end in romance.
Oh, totally.
The story doesn't have to end in any kind of canon pairing or anything.
The romance
like that.
Comes as a result of the growth of the characters. That's why it ends up being so cathartic, right?
The snafu is the journey.
The snafu is the journey. It's the thing that makes it so that we buy why that, yes, this is that precious, right? Because otherwise, yeah, you could have a rom-com that involves the characters just getting together in the first 2 minutes of the show, right? And, you know, and then it'd be about all the stuff that happens afterwards. But, you know, the point is you could have a romance story that takes 10 seconds, you know.
Yep.
But that wouldn't be nearly as fun.
Right. Yeah.
So...
But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. It was a fantastic episode. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general. Also, be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Yes, we stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yes, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.